Well, let's speak to Mohammad Reza Farzaneghan about this. He's a professor of economics of Middle East at Philipps Universität Marburg and is joining us from Dusseldorf. Thank you for your time, Professor. So these protests are continuing despite the warnings from the government and despite the government announcing the new monthly allowance. Was the fiscal move too little, too late?
Well, the reforms were important to be started. I mean, the reforms on removing the cheap US dollar for specific imports and importers who were giving them significant rents. So it was important to reduce corruption, rent seeking. That is the first thing to say. You also increase the share of taxes in the government budget was the correct move to be done, and it was supposed to be done in the previous years. The only issue is the timing of these reforms, these important reforms, which seems to be selected in a wrong timing. So we are observing all these reforms increases the frustration.
Why hasn't it been enough to quell the anger?
We are observing a situation that the size of middle class in Iran has decreased over the years under the sanctions. So my own studies shows that the sanctions have reduced the size of middle class of Iran by about 17 percentage point per year from the year of 2012 to 2019, and this situation has been continued until now. Yeah. So we are observing a new poor population in Iran, which are demanding some level of stability. The inflation that you mentioned is a very clear sign of instability. Iran in the past year experienced one of the highest level of uncertainty in its economy.
But Professor, the inflation, the currency devaluation and the sanctions are long-term issues for Iran. This has been going on for a long time now. What's changed now that's pushed, the merchants and the bazaris and ordinary Iranians into the streets?
Well, in 2025, two major events happened which make that year very much unique experience for most Iranians. First of all, the military confrontation with Israel in 6 months ago, almost 6 months ago, was a very new experience of for many of Iranians, that all these years of negotiations and things like this resulted to a military confrontation with the U.S. and Israel. So that was very bad for many businesses. It creates a sense of uncertainty and unpredictability in the bazaar. And the second event which happened last year was the snapback, reactivation of the UN sanctions, which was killing the last hope among the businesses, households, that there would be a solution out of these problems. So a snapback was the second most important bad news for the Iranian economy. With the introduction of the next year Iranian budget plan, increasing the taxes that you said, that was the oil on this fire.
Very important context there. Now, sanctions relief is often presented as the solution. If sanctions were lifted, let's say tomorrow, would that be enough, do you think, to stabilize the bazaar and the broader Iranian economy, or are more structural reforms needed to help the Iranian economy?
I guess in the short term, removal of the sanction or lifting of the sanction or partial lifting of sanctions would be a very good positive news for the bazaar. And of course, in the middle term, long term, all these structural deficiencies, namely high corruption, low level of government effectiveness and things like this needs to be also addressed. But in the short term, what the Iranian economy needs is to find the solution in its foreign politics with the West, especially with the US under the Trump administration would not be easy. That is something that the Iranian economy needs right now, because otherwise we know the supply of hard currency, US dollar, has been significantly constrained on the US sanctions. Petroleum dollars are not returning back to Iranian economy, or it's a very complicated situation. And the demand for hard currency because of high business risk in the Iranian economy is high. So this imbalance between supply and demand for hard currency result to devaluation of the Iranian Rial and this high inflation. So yes, right. I mean, the short term, finding a way to remove or at least partially loosen these sanctions is very much important for stabilization of the Iranian political economy at the moment.
Professor, thank you so much for your insight. Mohammad Reza Farzaneghan joining us there from Dusseldorf.
You're welcome.